we're going to be talking about an overview of what EMDR therapy is, from its roots, from where it began, up to where do we see it going. This is not an EMDR class per se, but it does give you a taste about EMDR. And if you're interested in learning about it further, you can certainly be in touch with me or the EMDR International Association website. Without further ado, let's begin. I've been a therapist for over 17 years. And before I was a therapist, I was a client. So I'd love to see in the chat a thumbs up or something like that of anybody else who, before they were a therapist, they were a client. Did anybody take a path similar to mine? And if so, I just want to say hello to you and welcome the idea that I did my own personal healing to the best of my ability at that time before I became a therapist. Good morning. I'm just looking at the chat and it's so nice to see. Oh, I just got back from Chicago, Matthew, on Sunday night. I was there teaching an EMDR class. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Maria. So I've seen some people recognizing before they were a therapist, they were a client. So a little bit about my story. 30 years ago, is it 30 years ago? Yeah, about 30 years ago, maybe 35 now. When I was a client, my therapist at the time was a newly trained EMDR clinician. EMDR therapy was only 3 years old at the time. And so I presented to Laura Knutson, was my therapist, and Laura said, Barbara, I know this new therapy, and I think it would be a really good fit for you. And I was like, oh, wow, tell me about it. So Laura informed me about what EMDR was. I was intrigued, but maybe more than intrigued, I was desperate. I was desperate to get out of the pain I was in. So I said yes. And Laura and I did very focused clinical work, EMDR focused work, and I was in and out of therapy in 18 months. Now, that might seem like a long time, but I was coming from developmental and complex trauma with a lot of repressed memories. So it was a lot of work that we got done. And then with the story why I wanted to mention EMDR is because, interestingly, a family member of mine was also in therapy. They started before me. They were in therapy while I was in therapy, and they continued for years after me. And I was talking to this family member. I was like, wow, I'm doing this thing. And she said, nope, I don't want to do it. So I share it because EMDR was so efficient and so effective, and it changes me from the brain on down to the body. So why EMDR therapy? Because it works efficiently, effectively, and thoroughly. Then I have 3 sons, and at one point they stopped calling me mommy and started calling me ma, and they became taller than me. I was like, now what am I going to do with my life? And my husband suggested, why don't you become a therapist? And I started crying because I was like, wow, I was transformed because of therapy. Could I do that for other people? So the first thing I did after finishing grad school was to get my EMDR training because I wanted to be as impactful as Laura Knutson was for me. So cheers to Laura Knutson, cheers to good therapy, and cheers to the work we do that's transformative for people's lives. So that's a little bit about me and why EMDR. What I'd love to know, though, right now is how many of you are knowledgeable about EMDR? So, Angela, could we put up that first question in the poll, please? And there's going to be a series of questions that Angela's going to put up because I'd love to know where my audience is. How many of you are experienced with the EMDR, have never heard about it, are curious about it, or maybe a trainer yourself? So let's see what the questions are bringing us. I will tell you about a walk in the park. Oh, none of the options fit me. Okay. 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 A walk in the park. EMDR therapy has something in common to potato chips and sticky notes. Potato chips, sticky notes, and EMDR therapy, they were all discovered by accident. So Francine Shapiro is the person that discovered EMDR therapy, but she discovered it completely by accident. Back in 1987, maybe some of you were alive and some of you weren't, but in 1987, Francine was going for a walk in the park, and she was struggling with a medical crisis that she was having personally. And what Francine discovered in that spring day walking along the park was by the end of the walk, she felt better. She felt more relief, more at ease. She just simply felt more optimistic. And Francine, being a curious person and a researcher, she said, "Ooh, could I duplicate this?" Because she definitely felt better. And from that accidental discovery, this walk in the park, we now have, over 30 years later, EMDR therapy, which is recognized throughout the world and approved by so many agencies. It's a highly recommended form of therapy. So thank you, Francine, for doing that. And thank you to all the research that goes into EMDR therapy. EMDR therapy, what I wanted to talk about is some of the basics, what it is not, and what makes it different. EMDR therapy stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. EMDR used to be called EMD, and then Francine realized that not only does it desensitize information, having it have less charge in the mind body, but it also reprocesses information that we can move into a more adaptive or a place of new thoughts and new narratives regarding that thing. So it used to be called EMD, and now it's called EMDR. EMDR is comprehensive. It includes all different modalities. We can use it on so many types of symptoms and diagnoses. It is integrative, and it is completely client-centered. It's approach to therapy that helps them access and heal the trauma and other life distressing events so that people can live a more full and balanced life. I was working yesterday with a client, and we were doing, every time I do this, that's EMDR therapy, I feel like a Pavlovian dog in that whenever I'm about to say EMDR, I just do my hand like this. Anyways, I was working with a client yesterday, and we were focusing on EMDR therapy. Or was it last week? Anyways, one of the things I often hear with EMDR therapy is how whole a person feels and how grounded they feel and how embodied they feel. And so from that place, can you imagine making decisions or being in relationship while feeling whole and grounded? It's a very different experience. EMDR therapy, does require specialized training. I do recommend the approved trainings from the EMDR organization. I recommend them because as an EMDR clinician, I can talk to the quality of those trainings. It's a 50-hour training. It includes consultation, and it has this stamp of approval from the organization that Francine recommends. Francine has recommended, I should say, she's now deceased. And EMDR, as I said earlier, it's recognized by over 130 countries worldwide as an evidence-based treatment for trauma. As an EMDR consultant, I provide consultation to people all over the world. I've had consultees from all over the United States, as well as various countries, and we all work together to heal trauma. What EMDR is not. It is not hypnosis. So some people think that EMDR is going to hypnotize them, and I'm here to say no. You're always very present in the room with me, and you're always being listened to. Anywhere in the process of EMDR therapy, my clients can say stop or communicate to me stop, and I completely shut down the process and then ground and stabilize and talk about what was going on instead. So there is never any hypnosis going on. There is this ideal of dual attention, meaning the client has one foot in the past and one foot in the present. So we have this dual awareness of going into the yuckity yuck that I don't want to work with and being here safe with you, Barbara. So we have this dual attention. It's never completely hypnosis. Clients will say, maybe in a joking way, I wish you just had a big eraser and just erase that thing, just make it go away. And I have to very compassionately inform them that I cannot make the yuck go away. I cannot change what has happened. But what I can do is change the relationship to what happened. For example, somebody might be thinking about a traumatic event Somebody might have a traumatic event and maybe there's an association to a lavender field. And then every time they're around lavender, the smell of lavender, the color of lavender, or the feel of lavender in any way, shape, or form, they get a triggered response. So I can't make what happened in the lavender field go away, but the relationship to it, we can desensitize so that when they think about lavender, it'll be an echo. Oh, yeah, that thing that happened, but it's completely in the past. And I don't have to have that autonomic nervous system response anymore. I can remember that it's in the past and appreciate lavender for what it is. So I hope that makes sense that we can't erase it, but what we can do is change the relationship to it. It is not just eye movements. While initially it was always eye movement, we recognize that all we need to do is create a bilateral stimulation. We can do it auditorily, or we can do it tactile, or we can do it in a number of other ways. When we're working with children, one of the ways that's fun to create bilateral stimulation is bongo drums, right? Or if I have clients that are really dysregulate really easily and can dissociate really easily. Maybe I live in Colorado. If anybody else lives in Colorado, give me a thumbs up, give me a shout out. But I'll meet them over at one of our beautiful trailheads. And while we're walking, we're doing EMDR therapy. So there are many ways that we can create this dual attention stimulation to be in the past and in the present. It's not just for single incidences. Initially, a lot of the research was about single incident trauma, but more and more research is taking us to multiple traumas, complex PTSD. We can use EMDR therapy for a huge variety of things, huge variety. Toward the end of this presentation, I'll show you a list of things we use EMDR therapy for. It's also not homework focused. Studies will say why clients drop out of therapy. And one of the reasons clients drop out of a particular therapy is because they don't keep up with the homework. In EMDR, there is no homework. The one thing I ask my clients to do is pay attention. Just pay attention to where you are. And if you feel dysregulated, do a thing to help you re-regulate. But there's no actual homework to do. The other thing that EMDR therapy is not a quick fix. So a lot of my colleagues here, they think about me for EMDR therapy and they'll refer to me, which is such a lovely compliment. But in the beginning, 17 years ago, they were like, yeah, can you see my client and see them for 1 or 2 sessions and do that EMDR because then they can come back and work with me. I'm like, I love that you felt to refer to me, but EMDR is not necessarily quick. It is 8 phases and 3 prongs. So maybe I can get done efficiently with a client, but it might take 10 appointments. Maybe not 10 months, but 10 appointments, depending upon the client presentation. So it is not a quick fix. A lot of people think EMDR and they always think of this. And that's because that's EMDR phase 4, which is where we're doing the desensitizing, but EMDR is 8 phases. EMDR therapy is a structured approach that activates the brain's natural processing. Absolutely. One of the things when I'm teaching EMDR to clinicians as an EMDR trainer is a lot of people have nervousness about, but it's just so rigid. It's so rigid. You have to do this and you have to do that. I'm like, yes, EMDR has a structure, but it's not rigid. It has a structure. It's not rigid. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Okay. So we just went over what EMDR is not. Let's talk about how it's different from other therapies. So EMDR is different from other therapies, whether it's ACT or CBT or DBT or ART or any of the other therapies. Maybe what's the other therapy I'm trying to think about? Brain spotting. It's different than other therapies in that EMDR does not require a lot of talking. So what I love about EMDR therapy is I bet a lot of you, give me a thumbs up in chat, a lot of you work with clients that have shame, that at the core of the core, there's this huge container of shame. I am bad. It's the I am as opposed to I did a bad thing, I am a bad thing. And what I love love about EMDR therapy is that I don't have to know the details. We have a thing called blind to therapist. And what that means is the client, we can be doing EMDR reprocessing. And instead of saying, I'm noticing my throat is tight, I'm noticing the image is farther away, the clients don't have to tell me anything, really. All I absolutely need to know to do EMDR therapy is a vague idea of what we're working on. We're working on that thing that happened when I was 4. I'm good to go. I need to have an idea about what do they believe about themselves. I'm bad. Fine. And I need to know where do they feel that in their body. I need these 3 things and I can begin EMDR therapy. I don't need to know all the details about what a person did or what they did. I don't need to know. So I love that EMDR therapy is for those people that don't want to utter the words, but yet they want healing. That's what we can do with EMDR therapy. As I mentioned before, EMDR does not ask you to do a lot of homework between sessions. My one thing I ask is be mindful. And if you find yourself becoming dysregulated, do something to regulate yourself. When I do this, y'all, when I'm doing this, it means butterfly tap. And I could maybe teach that to you if we have time today. But a butterfly tap, this gentle back and forth tapping, it's through the body. It just can't help but activate the nervous system to relax a little bit. Okay, EMDR therapy, what I love about this is that it allows the brain to resume its natural healing. So many times our clinicians, our clients will have little traumas along the way and it naturally processes, oh, that thing, and it processes. It gets organized in the brain. Many times we process the bad thing, many times. But there are times to those certain clientele where the bad thing that happened, it gets frozen and stuck in time. Frozen and stuck in time. Now, this is a trauma memory. And then you probably recognize what I'm about to say. And then, oh my gosh, how come, Barbara, every time I smell lavender, I just go into the state of shock and freeze? I'm like, I have no idea. Let's go find out. Sometimes your clients don't know. Some clients do know. So we can have flashbacks. We can have autonomic nervous responses because this trauma got activated and it's being relived in the here and now. So what's cool about EMDR is we just reboot the system to do what it organically does to activate, and we access it, we activate it, and then we let it adapt again in the here and now. I hope that makes sense. So what I love about this is that it's brain-based. As I said earlier, before I was a clinician, I was a client. And one of my triggers was white t-shirt. It was white t-shirts. And guess who loved to wear white t-shirts around the house? My beloved, my person. And like, why is it every time I see you in that white t-shirt, my mouth gets dry, my palms get sweaty. I don't really want to be near you. I'm really anxious around you. And lo and behold, it was connected way down there to a story when I was a girl about white t-shirts. And back then, way back in my history timeline, white t-shirts definitely were a sign of danger is coming. But that's not happening today. And so now today, beloved can wear any color t-shirt and I'm just fine because it's just a story. It's not an activation. I love that it works at the level of the brain. EMDR therapy is designed to resolve unprocessed trauma memories in the brain, which is what I just said. One of the premises of what Francine talked about is AIP, and I'm going to talk about that in just a quick minute. But AIP is the foundation of EMDR. For many clients, EMDR therapy can be completed in fewer sessions. I shared earlier with you how I was in and out of developmental complex PTSD in 18 months. And I'm sure I took some weeks off in between because the boys were little and I was living a life. Whereas another family member started before me, was doing it with me, and was doing it well after me. So it's a very effective work at the level of the brain. Key components to EMDR. Yes, Ginger. I'm reading that. Ginger, shame is very common. Thank you. So would that be cool If shame, Ginger wrote something over here in chat. Shame is very common in the clients I see. I'm with you. And when I realized that in EMDR therapy, they don't have to speak, that we can do it anyway, a whole new world opened up with the clients and my ability to work with them. And Diana, me too. I'm going to level 3 in November next month. And I love how EMDR play together. It's a beautiful match. It's a beautiful match. So over here, some of the key elements with EMDR therapy. AIP, I mentioned that a moment ago. So AIP stands for Adaptive Information Processing. And Francine came up with that phrase, and it is the foundation of EMDR therapy. EMDR therapy is based upon this theoretical idea that we adapt to survive. So Francine likened it to if I should get a splinter in my hand, my body knows exactly what to do to heal. My body, I can't go over all the medical things, but I know I've had plenty of splinters, and then lo and behold, it's gone and my body heals. I didn't really do much, maybe make the environment optimal for healing, right? I might clean it, I might put the Band-Aid over it if need be, but I make the environment optimal, and then my body knew what to do. And Francine said, the mind body can do that too. If you can imagine, a trauma is a splinter in my memory network. A trauma is stuck there. It's frozen in time, and it can get activated with different stimuli: see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. All the ways we have memory, this can get activated. And so what Francine hypothesized is, let's create the right environment to activate this so our brain can naturally do what it does, and to shift it from what we call maladaptive to adaptive. Maladaptive to adaptive. But I would add, if I was in a conversation with Francine, I would say, but Francine, once upon a time, that was highly adaptive. Like for me, in my story, once upon a time, decades and decades ago, it was highly adaptive. It was very smart of my system to say, uh-oh, white t-shirt, danger, get ready, right? That was a very smart thing for my system to do. Bravo, thank you, system. But then it became maladaptive because white t-shirt wasn't danger, but my system didn't know that. So I think we should think about it. I think about it as, at first it was adaptive, and then it became maladaptive. So let's go back to adaptive again. It's just so cool how our brain can heal. I mentioned earlier that 8-phase is not a quick fix. It's actually 8 phases. 8 phases to EMDR therapy. 8 phases. There's 8 things that every time I'm doing EMDR therapy, I'm in one of those phases. And in addition to 8 phases, there's 3 prongs. And the prongs are the past, the present, and the future. I tell y'all, EMDR therapy is so robust. We look at the past, oh, white t-shirt. So we look way down at the past and we clean that up so that it's no longer jarring to my system. And then we go to the present, we clean that up so it's no longer jarring to my system. And then we go to the future so I can imagine white t-shirts and be at ease. And in fact, future protocol, we call them protocols, is something that Olympic athletes and other peak people, they'll do that to do dress rehearsal. I mentioned protocol. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to move my camera a minute. I love books, but these books right here, these are all protocols. So EMDR therapy has so many protocols. You name the problem, I'll tell you a protocol. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm getting really excited. I don't know if you can tell, but like, I do love this stuff. EMDR therapy, what it does is it binds the trauma, we recall the trauma, we activate the trauma, and then we create bilateral stimulation in any number of ways. And what that does is it keeps this traumatic thing going and going and going, but then there's nothing bad happening, so it loses its power. That's one of the theories. EMDR therapy works both with cognitive and somatic levels. So it is very body-based. When I'm working with clients, and give me a thumbs up, give me it in the chat. Do you work with clients that if this is their brain and this is their body, instead of being embodied, they're living slightly disembodied? What body? What do you mean? Notice my body? Huh? So they're living slightly disembodied because once upon a time, the body held such pain story that they couldn't live there anymore. So it's just such a beautiful thing to see people integrate back into the mind body. It's very somatic. And no, you don't already have to have, thanks, Amber, thanks, Ginger. You don't already have to have somatic training to do EMDR therapy. We teach you the appropriate somatic interviews. We teach that to you in the basic training, and then you can do more advanced trainings on it. EMDR states that symptoms don't exist in a vacuum, but they originate from the past. And again, I bet you see this in your clients. I bet a lot of you already say, oh, every time somebody's voice gets really loud, you just want to shrink and get small. Oh, every time. And I bet some of you already say, how long have you been noticing that's been happening? And then the client might say, gosh, it's always been that way. And then some of you might say, what's one of the first times you remember that happening? Yeah, when I was in middle school and I was trying out for something and the coach yelled at me and I just felt so stupid. Oh, that's EMDR therapy. You're going back to the original point, back to the original pain point, and you're going to help desensitize that. And you're going to help the person live more fully and more whole. I hope that makes sense to all of you. I hope that's helpful. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask Angela to play a short little snippet of a video just for anybody that has not seen EMDR therapy. Here's a short little snippet of a video so you can see what it looks like. So what it was, and I do encourage you, if you're curious about EMDR, Colleen West has this video out on YouTube, and it's a lovely video honing in on phase 4 of EMDR therapy, what most people think about. And it's an actual person who volunteered doing EMDR therapy, and she's reporting about her experience, and you can see the emotions, and she's talking about the body. So I do encourage, if you're curious about it, I went through a lot of videos, and Colleen's is a video that I've always admired and respected. So sorry about that. And we are all learning to pivot as we go. Anything else? And let me just go to the Q&A. Okay. So I'm going to take a moment. And since we're not seeing the video, I'm looking at a question from Deanna. What if a person can't connect to the first time they're experiencing something? Love that question. A lot of my clients, Deanna, cannot connect to the first time. It's always been there. And EMDR is both a science, there's a lot of research, a lot of science about it. It's also an art. And so it's on this artistic side where if I have a client that says, I don't know the first time, I'll just say, tell me the worst time or tell me a recent time. There's a phrase, all roads lead to Rome. And so if I activate this neuronal network with, gosh, I don't know when it ever started, but I know it happened yesterday, I can start with what happened yesterday. And if I get enough activation, this neuronal network will glide over to that neuronal network, the original one. I don't mean to be weird, but like they'll talk to each other, right? So all roads lead to Rome. Just get activated and started, and the system will take you where it needs to be healed. I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Deanna. Thank you for asking. And Norma, thank you also for letting us know that the video wasn't playing. Okay. So those are the key components. Yes, I hope so. I hope so. Angela is going to put it in the chat, I believe. She'll put a link to the video from Colleen West on YouTube with EMDR therapy. All right. Key components, we went over those. Okay. I wanted to show you this cool, now this image is an image from the Amen Clinic in California. And this is before and after 4 sessions of EMDR 90-minute sessions. 4 90-minute EMDR sessions of an adult female diagnosed with PTSD. The image on the left, where it's all lit up in red, is showing you high brain activity. The image on the right is showing you the red is a lot less obviously. EMDR therapy truly does calm the brain. It truly helps the limbic system, connect more fully with the brainstem, with the prefrontal cortex, so that everybody's here and now, not lost in the past or dreading the future. It helps here and now, here and now. So I wanted to give you all an image of what a brain can look like before and after therapy for those visual learners. Okay. So I want to jump back to the poll. And what is the next question? The next question, I think, is the idea that the brain has an innate capacity to heal. I would love to see what people think about that question there about the brain having the innate capacity to heal. We, as a clinician, help set the stage. When my granddaughter gets a boo boo, we set the stage, we clean it, we put on the band aid, we do what we need to do, and then voila, it heals. We, as the clinician, we set the stage, we create safe environment, we create rapport, we create maybe a sense of confidence so the other person can relax. We create sensitivity and vulnerability. And so the brain will heal in the right environment. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that it strongly resonates. I'm so pleased to hear that. And if you're curious about it, there's so much research that you can look up. Thank you. So glad to hear it. EMDR therapy integrates with so many other therapies. As you look at this list, I wonder if you want to pop into chat, don't have to, of course, which of these therapies, ACT, attachment, CBT, DBT, et cetera, I'd love to see over in the chat, which of these therapies do you already do or do you identify with? Because if you identify with any of these, I'm here to tell you that EMDR integrates so well with it. One of Francine's things is let's be collaborative. We don't have to silo things. We don't have to be the king of the hill, if you will. Let's all be collaborative and work together. And she made it in a way that if I am working with a colleague and their primary lens is, let's say it's sand play. Somebody's a real into sand play, sand trade therapy. I'm like, yeah, let's do EMDR with the sand because they work well together. That's what I do as well. So I hope that people recognize some of their own modalities and that EMDR will play well with those modalities. And how I see another thing in the Q&A. ACT. Great. Thanks, Nina. ACT works well with this. Works really good. All right. Nothing playing here. Oh, I see nothing. Oh my gosh. Everybody did. Okay. So ACT, CBT, DBT is wonderful. Motivational interviewing is wonderful for across the board, right? We use that everywhere. TF, CBT, IFS, somatics, and Ginger. You and I are colleagues. IFS, primary, DBT, mindfulness. These all play really well with EMDR therapy. Really well. Thank you for playing with me over in the chat. It feels nice not to be alone. I can't see your faces, so I feel connected to you that way. I appreciate that. I'm an attachment these person. Okay. Evidence. EMDR therapy is very well researched. Very well researched. And it took a time. It took a time. I don't know if anybody is aware, but like here in Colorado, we're doing a lot of plant-based experiments with therapy, like a CAP, ketamine assisted, and other psychedelic medicines for EMDR. And it's the Wild West with that. And back in the day, back in 1987, 1989, EMDR was the equivalent of psychedelics. It was like, what do you mean waving what is this thing that you're doing? So if you can imagine back in the day, what are you doing? People were confused about this. So it took a while for good research to happen. But now there's well over 35 well-researched control groups that says it works. In fact, the statement is, we're not questioning whether or not it works. We're trying to figure out how it works, which is a really big deal in the realm of research. There's guaranteed it works. How does it work is what we're trying to figure out, which is cool to be on that cutting edge. Let's talk about the mechanisms of change. How does it work? We can only have theories, right? So whatever modality, whether it's CBT, somatic, ACT, whatever modality you already use, there's theories about how it works, but we don't know exactly how it works. So in EMDR, we have three working ideas about the mechanism of change. One of them is memory reconsolidation and prediction error. Another one is working memory taxation. And the last one is orienting response and automatic regulation. I'm not going to go into detail because I just saw my time. I'm not going to go into detail about a lot of them. I'm going to focus in on the working memory taxation. I'm going to go right there. What that says, and this is new research, new meaning like the last 5 years or so out of the Netherlands, is that the client's coming in and they're saying, I want to work on this thing. I say, what's the first time? When I was 4 years old, got it. So we're pulling something from the back of the storage closet, right? The far back of the storage closet. And we're pulling it out. We're getting all the cobwebs, all the dust. We're pulling it out and we're putting it, boom, right here in the room between you and me. Now, this is what's called working memory. It's here in the room and it's alive. So it's alive in the room. And then what happens, it's alive in the room, but it's alive in the room as we're here, safe with Barbara, and we're in the bad memory, safe with Barbara in the bad memory. And we're overtaxing it. We're doing bilateral stimulation. I do advanced things like clients will hum or will march in place. I do advanced things with EMDR. And what happens is that this thing that's so rock solid, it just loses its capacity to stay because it's not getting to live. It's here, but it doesn't get to live. I hope that makes sense. An imagery that sometimes works is I grew up watching a certain version of The Wizard of Oz. And in that version of The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, water is tossed on her and she melts. Some people may be familiar with that. And when I think about this yuck, that's right here, this yuck, that we're working it so hard that it can't stay consistent. It dissolves, it evaporates because they're safe in the room. So the mechanism change, we have three ideas. The one I most vibe with is the working memory taxation because I've seen that mostly. Okay, EMDR therapy. A lot of times people think of it only for trauma. But as I pointed out, these books over here, can't see me, these books over here, they are full of protocols that EMDR helps with. So you can see just some of them that are available to people. EMDR therapy even works for dissociative identity disorder and schizoaffective disorder. It works beautifully with grief and loss. It works also wonderfully with, how do I want to say this, OCD, substance disorders, things like that. In the unusual or special applications, if someone, let's say someone is in high school and they love playing baseball and they're up to bat and they're about to hit, but they get beamed by the ball. I don't know if we have any sports people here, but they get beamed by the ball and they're okay. But the next time they go up to bat, they notice they're a little bit jerky. They're a little bit shy about it. So EMDR helps desensitize that event. EMDR will also help. Let's pretend that you're a CFO or CEO and you really want to do this peak performance thing. We can use EMDR for peak performance. Athletes or Olympic athletes use it quite a lot. So as you look at, let's go to another poll question, Angela. Which poll question are we going to do? Is that question 5, Angela? Beyond PTSD, which are you most interested in exploring EMDR therapy for? So see if you all can pull up that particular poll question. Beyond PTSD, which area are you most interested in exploring EMDR for? Think about your clientele. Think about areas that maybe you feel stuck or stymied and not feeling really excited about, oh, what do I do with this? Oh, well, we're a pretty good split right now, 33% across the board. Oh, more is coming in. This is so cool. Technology, love it, hate it. Right now, I love it. I love it. Complicated loss and grief is in the lead right now. And we do have a protocol because there is normalized grief. But when we have, I hate to say the excessive grief, but when it's prolonged grief, we actually have a protocol by a guy, I feel like saying Michigan. I know it's a cold state up north, where it's woo-woo. And when I've used it with clients, it really works. It just really works. It's rather amazing. EMDR can be a very transcending experience for people. So grief was the one that held the lead. Chronic pain. Okay, cool beans. Thanks for participating, everybody. So in my last 5 minutes or so, I want to talk about the future of EMDR therapy. We just had over in, and maybe some people here attended it, our EMDR conference over in Anaheim, California. I would have been there, but I was teaching an EMDR class, so that prohibited me from going. I've already marked my calendar for next year, so I can be there instead of teaching, although I love teaching. And the keynote speaker was Susie Mathiasen. And what Susie was talking about was the future. It was the history and the future of EMDR. And one of the things that is brand new to me on the field is I've always done this very steady, even bilateral stimulation. And what the research is showing is that Francine actually never challenged what other types of bilateral stimulation could be used to create this taxing the working memory. So I'm very excited that my clients and I, they keep coming back, so I must be doing something right. With clients with really narrow windows of tolerance or really quick to flood or dissociate, my clients and I will be up and marching in place while humming the ABCs while following my fingers. All of that is now proven to be very effective. So it's really exciting to see what cutting edge things are coming about. The other thing that I'm excited about for EMDR therapy is intensives. And maybe some of you already offer intensives. I'm not sure. But what we're finding is that the intensives are where people come in for 3 hours a day, 3 days in a row, or they'll come in 6 hours a day, 2 or 3 days. We intensify the work we're doing. We stay with it. We stay focused. We to the other side. And so intensives are proven to be as effective as weekly. But what I think makes it different is we all live such busy, hectic lives, and we all want it instinct. We want it done. We want it done. And it works. They come in, it's done. And then when I do my follow-up phone call, hey, did it stick? So I'm super excited about that. As a clinician, it gives me more flexibility. I can see a person 3 full days in a row and then take off 2 days. It's really nice. So the future of EMDR is really exciting. We're, if you will, at this 30, 35-year mark, the old guard is saying thank you, goodbye, and there's new energy coming in. And the new energy has new ideas, and it's very exciting. I have a colleague who does fly fishing. He'll take his clients out and they go backpacking. They go fly fishing for 4 days in a row, doing therapy. That's great. It's unlimited, the creativity that we can bring to it, as long as we understand the foundation of AIP and we understand the 8 phases, what we're doing and why, we can be really creative about it. So in conclusion, Circe, will we get a list of the books you referred to? So it's these books, and I will pass them along to Angela if you want. So inside here, these are all protocols. These are all protocols. I think there's even a protocol in here about I feel too short. I tried that because I feel short compared to my sisters. So it's these books. And then a book that I would recommend if you're curious about EMDR therapy or your clients are. This is a great book by Francine Shapiro, one of the last books she wrote, Getting Past Your Past. It's a very good book. It's for lay people, not just for clinicians. And it really talks about EMDR therapy. And isn't it a great title? Getting Past Your Past. When I work with clients, their past finally gets to live in the past and just be an echo, just be a narrative. It doesn't live right here, front and center. And then they get to live this glorious, wonderful life here and now, not responding to the horrors of yesterday, nor to the dreads of tomorrow. I really appreciate that question, Circe. Thank you. So I think that's about it for me. I'm going to toss the ball back to Angela. You can find me again, Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler. And if you Google barbaracounsels.com, you'll find my website. And I'm mostly on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm trying Instagram, but I probably need a manager or somebody smart to do that because I don't know how to do that part. Anywho, it's a pleasure to hang with y'all. And thank you so much for playing with me in the polls and in the chats. And I'm so sorry about the video. I'm sure Angela will, in some way, shape, or form, get that over to you. Okay. So thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you, Barbara. October. Yeah, thank you so much, Barbara. You did an amazing job. So if we could just give her a round of applause in the chat, that would be awesome. Thank you. You did absolutely amazing. So I want to apologize to everybody for my voice. I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you now. I have got some kind of rabid cold. That's great. In my voice. But I want to show you a little bit about ICANotes and what we have in ICANotes as far as EMDR. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Right here, if you folks can see my screen. All right, excellent. So this is ICANotes Plus. So I know we have a lot of ICANotes customers in here. So if you're like, that doesn't look the same, this is Plus. It's not the classic version. And it is a Plus version. So it shows you a dashboard of your progress notes, what you have finished. It basically helps you keep up with all the notes that you need to do. It is a lot faster. It's a lot cleaner in its format. I'm going to go into a chart now and kind of show you. Looks like I have Jenny as the gingerbread woman in there. But I'm going to do a progress note really quickly. We have lots of forms and assessments. We have therapy groups in here. We have a couple of family therapies, SOAP notes, quick notes, case management notes, clinical summaries. But one of the nice things in our progress notes is we have a couple different ways of doing your notes. You can do dictation in there. We have a click-based shrub system where I can go in and say that the patient has depression, that depression continues and it's worse. I can say that they're not doing well. They have crying spells, that's worse. Fatigue, maybe that's present. Sleep problems, that those continue, things like that. I can address suicidality. I'm not suicidal. Deny is convincing. One of the wonderful things about Plus is I can go in here and adjust my buttons, put my own clinical content in, which is really wonderful. But we also have EMDR in here. So I'm going to go in to our EMDR content and we have the previous session. So if you've done the previous session, you can review that and say that's been reviewed. We can talk about present disturbance and then when it occurs, who's involved, when it was last experienced. And so you're able to use the shrub buttons there. The feelings that were experienced, they have sadness, helplessness, hopelessness. We could talk about sensations that have been experienced. Maybe there's dizziness and rapid heart rate. And then you could talk about maybe negative beliefs about the situation. It was preventable, things like that. You can talk about safe and calming issues like when it happened, all of these things. So within your note type here, and then you can also do associated positive feelings. So love, peace, safety, security. You can do if they're following finger movements, if that's happening. You can also do cue words as well. Like if they self-cue, cue with disturbance, things like that. And then we can talk about traumatic events. So if there's physical abuse, you can talk about that. And then there's treatment. And then EMDR education. Now, also what we have is we have a readability enhancer within ICANotes where I can take all of this and make it with our readability enhancer. I had two things on, but the readability enhancer makes the notes flow a little bit more smoothly. It does use AI. Now, some people love AI, and that's great. We have an AI scribe in here as well. So if you're doing in-person sessions or telehealth, the AI scribe will pick up everything in your note. We call our AI scribe is different. We say that our AI scribe has clinical humility, but But you can also use the AI with readability. If you processed your note over here, there's some people that don't like AI, and that's okay. And so we have these are clinician statements in here as well. And then you can dictate or you can type as well. So there's just a couple things with our notes with EMDR. We do have EMDR in our therapy notes and our prescriber notes. And so you can list the diagnosis. It's really easy to put it in there. You can have short list or you can do DSM-5 by code. And you can also ICD-10 or ICD-10. So I'm able to put in my diagnosis there. Really easy to put in service codes. It's very easy to link a treatment plan in. So if I had a treatment plan with this particular patient, I can select from the list. I can select interventions there and link those in, and it would be able to tell how they're doing with if they're doing well with those interventions. Sometimes they're not, though, right? Sometimes the problem's worth or they have very minimal advancement on the progress meeting those goals. But I'm going to say that this patient or client is doing good, and then we're going to continue the current treatment plan and go ahead and link that in and then compile and preview the note. And so it'll compile, preview the note. I can sign it, the patient can sign it, and you just have a really robust, nice note there. And then that's what it looks like. So it looks like you typed your heart's content all day on this note. And it does bring in your treatment plans, which are really helpful. As you can see from there, I can create a summary. I can generate an invoice, but there's all kinds of great things that you can do at ICANotes. Again, we have therapy groups as well, but I wanted to show you the main things that ICANotes can do with EMDR. So I hope that was really helpful as far as just a little demonstration of ICANotes. And I do thank you for listening to my voice. I know it sounds like nails on chalkboard. So I appreciate you today. And again, just a fantastic webinar. We have because with ICANotes, we do informational webinars at least 2 a month. We have a fantastic marketing team, Sandy, who is our chief marketing officer, and Angela. They do an amazing job, but we always have excellent speakers. But I can really say today, truly such a wonderful speaker today. So thank you again for your time. So thank you. Thank you. Oh, and thank you, Maria. Thank you. Y'all have a fantastic day.